Okay, in today's video we're having a look at installing my upgraded yLED-ac version 1.3. This is the later version. The board has been cut down at this end to fit in here because of the switch in these ones, the switch here. And I've actually made up these PCB standoffs. They were the push-through version. These are stick-ons because there's no post in there to mount it, and like in the other versions, in the other Yaesu versions. So basically I've made a version which uses stick-ons. So basically these stick-ons were a push-through style. I've cut the top section off with push-through the PCB, and I've threaded, we can see, I've tapped and threaded the end of that. And basically I've cut these all away to go around mainly this switch here, to go around the switch to fit in, and this end is sunk up hard against this edge here, and you might notice a slight step in this because there is a lip up the top. Sorry, up the top here is what I mean, up here. So we'll get into that in a minute. We'll show more about that. So basically this is only for the KR-400 and 600RC. I don't think it will fit into the KR-2000 because there's an extra switch here, and that's right here. So for this case, this is just for the 400RC and the 600RC. So let's, yeah, well that's right. This board has a bridge rectifier on board and a capacitor and a load resistor for the LEDs and a trim pot for brightness adjustment, as per with the rest of them. So this is just the later version. And the cutaway here is to get around in the other Yaesu versions, to get around the LED and stuff in here and whatnot, which is really good. So yeah, let's put that aside and let's get started. Okay, so you'll need a number 2 screwdriver, not a number 1, number 2. You'll need a small jeweler screwdriver, Phillips head. I don't know what size it is, but it's small, but bigger of the two of all of them. You'll need a trim pot adjuster if you want to adjust the brightness. You'll need a pair of cutters, and I like using these T-Rex style stripping wires. So let's get started. All good skis. Oh, and you may need a clean rag and something to clean with as well. Okay. So the very first thing to do is we turn it to the side and we remove the 2 back corner screws. Spin them around. Must remember to work within the scope of the camera. And I'm reaching across in front of the camera again. Naughty. Okay, turn him over. We'll lay this one around so you can see what I'm doing. We now remove the 4 feet. Yeah, let's use that hand. That'd be better. Okay, that's a better way of doing it. So I'm not putting my arm in front of the camera. Okay, right, 4 feet off. And at this point we can actually physically remove the 3 screws that hold the front panel. This means just having to turn it back over again later on. Oh no. 3 screws out. Come here, a little bigger. Right, turn him over. Now, basically to take this off, I just physically grab the fingers underneath the edge and put your thumb on the top and flex it, and out she comes. Just be gentle when you're doing it because you've already removed the bottom screws. Okay, so we'll turn them around. We shall remove the 2 countersunk screws from the front that holds the front straps. Not from the front straps, the straps that hold the front panel. I'll get it right in a minute. Jesus. So these 2 countersunk screws, and they decide to come out. Righty. I've already done a few upgrades to this particular controller. I have changed it to a gear drive servo motor style, and I put my new display drive gear in there, but I'm still using the later version display. I probably didn't mention that these RC versions have AC to the bulb, so we need to run, that's why we need to run this AC version with the projector and everything on board. So another thing I've done here too as well, I've covered up all the exposed terminals here on the power switch, and I've also put in, you can't see it, I'll get a bit closer, little covers over top of the two input terminals of the transformer. That's all 240 volts, touch that, you die. Okie dokie. So I like this servo model, and it frees a lot more, and there's no belts drive to stuff around with, and yeah. So basically what we're going to do now, without damaging anything, righty-o. So I'll turn him around. Now since it's an AC model, doesn't matter where we cut this, but let's cut these. See what I'm doing? Okay, so let's cut these two wires off to the bulb. The bulb's in the top left hand corner here, so we'll cut those off. We haven't got to mark them because it's AC, so that's gone. So we can pull in that through here. I've actually rewired all this and everything because I stripped this down, this rotator, and I've refurbished everything in it and whatnot. I actually had to replace the PCB. The PCB that was in this one was faulty. I've also put in, probably can't see it in the back corner here, I've also put in a fully covered fuse holder, because normally they got exposed fuse holders here. It's just an accident waiting to happen. So, okie dokie. So, wires are stripped, ready to go, so we'll just get them out of the road for now. Hold them out of the road. To make things easier, remove the left hand direction switch. Just makes things easier to get in with these. You can get around it, but it just makes it just so much easier since we're dealing with stick-ons, one-hit wonders. If you stuff it up, you've got to redo it. So another thing you need to make sure is the surfaces are clean and free of crap and garbage and everything else. So I've already done this, but I just pretend to, as I'm cleaning it up, even though there was a few specks there of stuff. So turn him sideways so you can see what I'm doing. So you can see what I'm doing, I should say. Okay, since it's stick-ons, and look at the fluff it's just left here. That rag is got the fluff all over it. Just made it worse. That'd be about ready, right? Okay. Okay. Since we have stick-ons, pays to do a dry run. Now the LEDs, all these screws keep falling. The LEDs must run. These are 3 LEDs. Must run hard against that. Not stepping back. You've got to have it hard on. It's got to go right in tight against. So do a couple of dry runs before you remove the sticky pads. So to imagine it going in and to see what you've got to do. Now you're going to be hard against the lens, but also hard up against this far end, so up there, because there's not much room down this end, because the switch will hit the PCB. It's a very tight fit. It's the best I can do with what I had. So basically do a couple of dry runs to imagine yourself going in, find the lens, and then drop it down, pushing that way to make sure it stays hard against this. So we'll do that again. Get the lens, find the lens, and then push down, make sure you got pressure that way. So that looks pretty good. So we've done a few dry runs of that. Remove the sticky pads. Wait this side to come off. And again, we find the lens. Keep pressure that way. Hold it off. Make sure we've got the lens. And pushing hard this way, and then push on. Now don't push too hard on the front here, because you'll push all the power switches and stuff. So basically put your hand underneath and then push down on it, and the same thing at this end. Righty-o. That is there and done. We can now reinstall the switch. And you have to hold this up a bit to reinstall it. That's a very large. Okay. Come through, Mr. Switch. Oh, there it is. That's one in. Back one. Come on, hold the screw. Oh yeah. Once you have both screws in, you can nip them up. There we are. One yLED installed. Now, I'll turn around. Now it doesn't matter which wire goes where because it's AC. So one has to be a bit longer than the other one, but these need to be the same length. So yeah, we've got one slightly longer. So I'll put the shorter one in first. Now you'll need a dual screwdriver here to back these out. Back to two, what's it I'm doing? Back to two screws out. Make sure these are twisted up. You could solder these if you wanted to. So just pop them in. In you go. Doesn't want to go in. Oh, maybe this didn't back out enough. There it goes. It's all the way out now. Screw it up. Give it a little pull. Make sure it's tight in there. Make sure this one's all the way out. Slide it in. Lift him up. Give it a little bit of a tug without pulling it too hard. Double check that the board is actually mounted down and not loose at all. Okie dokie. All looks good. Now, reverse process. So, lift up this, set it onto the flat tray at the bottom, the little return for the front panel. Push the actual two straps, the top straps, and we shall put those back in first. Again, make sure all your wires haven't got hooked up anywhere and whatnot. So basically we put this top countersunk screws, there's a countersunk, that probably blurred out but whatever. So put the countersunk screws back in first, do not over tighten. Where'd the other one go? Oh, there he is. Where are you? Up there. Hold up the straps so you don't push down too much on it. Do not over tighten. Okay, at this point we'll turn him up this way on his side, line up the holes, find our screws for this. Line the whole screw holes up, put the screws in, find the right ones. Alrighty, here we go. Okay, set it down, make sure we haven't got any wires hooked up anywhere. That is a problem. Alrighty. At this point, before you go any further, before we actually make sure those wires sit down, enter a new location now. Put them down there like that. So at this point we can actually power it up. Now since all my wires are covered, you can actually physically tape all these wires up so you don't electrocute yourself. So basically you can put covers or tape over all these wires. So basically as you can see now, up in here, the trim pod is just there to doing the brightness adjustment. I have preset these, but everyone likes things differently. So we'll plug him in. And I shall try and visually show you it turning on. It should illuminate this. It's very hard to take pictures of light. There we go. That looks okay to me. So what you normally do is you'd get a trim, go across with here, get your screwdriver from up here, and you can actually adjust that. It's quite easy to get to, but for me that looks okay. So we don't need to adjust that anymore, but you can go lighter or slightly brighter. So all good. So we can turn him off, unplug him, and then we grab the casing. I flex the casing here. Go back further. I can't go further. I normally hold the fingers like this, and you flex it. So what you do is you flex it over top of the top, go into where the plastic step is, because it's very hard to get over the step sometimes when you're trying to slide in from the back. And do that. Makes it a lot easier to put back together again. Alright, put our screws in. I always hold this forward like that with your fingers, close up, make sure it's all tight. Spin round. I'm reaching across in front of the camera again. Okay, and this screw wants to be a bit of a pain. It's not quite lined up properly. Okay, there we go. Righty-o-ty. Move him over. Make sure he's all sitting right. Put our 4 feet back in again. And we are nearly done. Righty-o-ty. One foot to go. Rightio. Back over again. Okay, one yLED-ac installed into a KR-600RC controller. Also is for KR-400RC. Righty-o-ty. All done. We shall catch you in the next video. Bye.